All right, let's get this. We're on a good roll here. We have another video within a reasonable time frame. And today we're going to cover this Clodbuster. I think it's been a while since I covered a Clod. If you're new to the channel, Tamiya Clodbusters are probably my all-time favorite RC trucks. I have dozens of them, and I'm particularly fond of old school style Clods, ones that you would see if you were to open up like a 1990 RC car action magazine. So aluminum wheels, chrome chassis, you know, Clodzilla stuff, Bennett stuff, C's, Technocraft, APM, Smoking Hobbies, whatever old school Clodbuster company you could think of, I'm all about that. So let's dive into this truck and I'll go through why I decided to cover this one today. So this truck I purchased some years back from Scott Kandari, who is another Clodbuster enthusiast within our Clod community. And when I got it, it was a really good start. It had some nice parts on it and stuff. And I broke the whole truck down, cleaned everything up, replaced some stuff, and then started adding a bunch of other old school parts to it. But the big reason why I purchased it was it had a really nice paint job that survived for decades and decades. It already had been cut out for the Palmer Hemi, which I thought was super rad. And then the other big thing is these Nerf bars on the side here were made by APM or Smoking Hobbies or CCP, or depending on, someone made them for someone, and then they got rebranded and resold and everything else. But they made two different variations, and this variation has a knurled center section, kind of like they would do like on a real step-up bar, so like your feet don't slip. And I did not have a set of those in the collection at the time. So that was the big selling point, was those, plus the other things, but that was one of the real big reasons why I purchased it. After getting it, I added this Sassy Chassis aluminum roll bar that I sent out to my friend Cole in California. He got an anodized red for me. I added the Ram RC lights. Stinks that Ralph retired, but I wish him well in his retirement. But now trying to find these types of parts are going to just be harder and more expensive. But I had those that I had purchased some time back, so I put some of the Ram cab lights on there. Got them wired up with the headlights. It also has dual sets of air horns. They are APM replicas. They are not the original APM ones. My friend Kevin, also known as Jugster, made those for me. He also made me a replica APM antenna. And then it has original front and rear APM bumpers. It's got the bow tie style front and kind of like a drop bumper style one on the back. I think they called it like a Warrior bumper or something like that, if I remember correctly. So those got added. It's got CCP stock chromed shocks on it, which were in good shape when I got it. So I decided to stick with those instead of trying to source some expensive Trinities. And then it's got a CCP chassis with an old school chassis saver kit on it. And someone did a nice job with adding the Palmer Hemis, the headers to the back of the truck for a rear dump. So that's pretty cool. The roll bar lights up here, these lights themselves were sold through RPP Hobby back when Corey owned it many years ago under a line of products that he referred to as the Outback series. And it was a company, WC Machining, that had actually made these lights. So I had purchased numerous sets of these, and then I sent them along with a roll bar to my friend Kevin, Jugster, and he made me this custom light bar and mount clamping system to work with the Sassy Chassis roll bar. He did those for myself and my friend Cole. So there's probably only maybe like a dozen of these custom light bars for this Sassy roll bar in existence. So it's kind of nice to have just a one-off custom part that not every old school Clod collector will have. It's got Trinity power, Monster Power horse motors in it. And then it has underneath, it has the old school like Kydex skid guards and stuff on it, and is topped off with a set of Chatham CNC aluminum ladder bars, which I had anodized red to go with the rest of the red theme, ESP steering bell cranks. And the biggest upgrade now is the new Integy red aluminum anodized full aluminum axle sets that I just got in. It previously had CCP axles in it. When I got it, the tubes and knuckles were disintegrating, which is a very common problem with CCP parts at this point. The Tamiya plastic just basically dries out and will crumble apart, despite what people say that that doesn't happen. It does. Anyway, we're not gonna get into that road. But yeah, so I decided to, originally I had just replaced the tubes and the knuckles with black parts. But now this is kind of nice because everything is nice red underneath and it's all aluminum, kind of cool. But I want to talk more about the axles and what I think of them overall. This is my first set of them. I'm not usually a big Integy fan. Their stuff is usually very subpar quality. They had, years ago, a cast set of aluminum Clod axles, which were terribly heavy and did not look good. These are CNC machined. The anodizing is done really nicely, but there's definitely some quirks that we'll get into. But let me bring you up close with the truck so you can check that out first, and then we'll talk more about the axles. All right, so if you peep here, you can see those nice new anodized axles, and they matched the anodizing pretty well with my other anodized parts. The steering links are a little bit darker. Those were ones from overseas that I had sent out to get anodizing, and anodizing can be kind of weird because if it's not done in the same vat, it will never be 100% the same. No matter what anyone tells you, it's going to vary slightly from batch to batch that's done. People can get stuff close, but it will never be 100%. So unfortunately, it's never going to be 100% perfect on this, but it's going to be, good enough in my book. And I think it looks pretty good with the red axles peeking through underneath there. So a couple other things. Like I said, this truck has a really nice Survivor paint job and an old school Autographics decal set on it that was done pretty nicely. It's got the old RPP Hobby Gearhead RC visor on there, an APM replica fire extinguisher that was also machined by my friend Kevin Jugster and then sent out for anodizing, and I had another guy make the reproduction stickers. It does have an ESP Clodzilla lift kit, and I have the mounts flipped so that the shocks kind of spread out in like an old school manner. We got TMS aluminum wheels, which are really just technically C's. TMS had them C's precision machined them for them. So yeah, this is a super cool truck. You can see these knurled APM Nerf bars I was talking about. This wasn't the Hemi that came in the truck. This was actually a Hemi that I purchased from another Clod enthusiast. Goes by Birdman. I think his real name's Justin. I might be wrong on that. It's been a minute since I've talked to him. But I had previously picked this motor up from him some time back, and it just happened to match this truck perfectly. And the one that was in there wasn't done so nice. So this one's done way nicer. The grill I detailed really nicely, and it has a set of Gearhead from RPP Hobby headlight covers that are actually, they're transparent, kind of like the old GTS styling valve covers. The valve covers, light covers that like I have on my full-size cars and trucks that I've used in the past. You can see that drop style rear bumper on there, and then you'll see that there's also the APM tube lower bumpers that just kind of finish things off. One thing I will say is that the gearboxes did not come with motor covers, which is a little disappointing. That's one of many quirks that these have. So I did swap over my CCP ones that were on the other gearboxes that were under the truck. So that did work out, but kind of disappointing for the cost that they don't have any sort of covers. But the axles themselves, the anodizing and stuff, and the machining on them is done nice, but they're just not 100% perfect in my opinion. For starters, they don't spin so well. They have their gears in them, which I've never personally ran them in all the years that I raced and did other Clodbuster related things. People that did said they did not hold up their plastic gears. The diffs do not feel great. They're very notchy. I didn't open them up, if I'm being perfectly honest, because I'm not going to drive this truck. It is a shelf queen. I know that bothers some people, but there's too many valuable parts on this truck for it to be driven and possibly damaged. So this one is for the shelf, but nonetheless, if these are a set of axles that you're considering, definitely some things you should know. One of the other things that kind of bugged me was too is the lower mount on here. The mounting screw for that on this side of the gearbox is not tapped. So they supplied a servo mount bracket for off of the axle. On an old school truck, I don't like to mount the axle, like the servos on the axles. I prefer to keep them in the center and actually have, the four-wheel steering and stuff. I think that just, kind of fits the bill of the trucks. I usually just use some sort of upgraded aluminum bell crank. In this case, I got the Clodzola ones on there. So yeah, that was kind of frustrating. What I did was I just ran a really long screw all the way through. It did catch the threads on this side, and then it's protruding through the mount a little bit, and then I just kind of tightened everything down nicely, and it's tight, but again, that's weird. I don't know why they didn't tap that side. So technically, if you were building this to be like a stock style truck like this is, you really can't, you wouldn't really be able to run the stock bumper mounts, unless you kind of get creative with it. So that was kind of a little bit annoying. The other thing to note is on the anti-rotation bracket here, you can see the screw that holds it here. Well, there's just a threaded, like, I don't want to call it like a pipe, but like tube, that's what this bolt threads into. So a bolt goes in here, and a bolt's supposed to go in on this side, but that's where the motor goes. So you literally can't put the motor in with the bolt there, because otherwise the bolt would be pushing one side of the can away from the gearbox. So again, like, not as far as like actual functional, not so great, because this is only held in on this one side. Now there's nothing supporting the other side. I guess maybe if you spaced the motor out and ran longer bolts and then moved the pinion, again, but there's also not a lot of room between the motor cans and the ladder bars. So I don't even know if you would necessarily be able to space that out like that. So yeah, little bit weird. For the price of them too, they're not that they're super expensive, but they're also not cheap by any means. So yeah, that was a little disappointing. But other than that, they do look good. They'll look great for this thing sitting inside the showcase. As far as running them goes, I don't know so much about that. I think they would definitely need some work, and that's just my opinion. I find that if you're actually racing competitively, honestly, the stock boxes with just a good quality bearing set and a light coating of grease is really going to be your best bet. If you could run some TTR straights in the rear and CVDs in the front, for that max steering angle and a little bit of extra track width, that's really the best setup. That's how I run my race trucks. But in terms of like using something like these axles for competitive racing or whatever it may be, probably not a great idea. Sorry, Integy, can't say that it would be a good idea. But yeah. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about this truck, feel free to drop me a comment below. If you like the truck, let me know in the comments. If you don't like it, let me know in the comments. Let's get some feedback going, and maybe tell me what you guys would like to see next. There's a whole lot of things happening down here that we're working on. So if there's something that has you have an interest in, let me know, and we'll try to get that ball rolling. All right. Thanks, guys. Catch you on the next one.